Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time. So we're gonna start with the interview, if that's
Yep.
okay with you. Okay.
Yep.
So
Sure.
first of all, we want to know that, well, if you can talk with us a little bit about what is the Social Media Victims Law Center? What is
Yeah.
it?
Yes. So it's a law firm, right? A law firm in Seattle, Washington, United States. And we were formed at the end of 2021 by a man named Matthew Bergman. He's a 25-year plaintiff's attorney in the area of products liability. So asbestos, typically. And so at the end of 2021, he instead of retiring, he saw what was happening with Frances Haugen and the Facebook papers,
Mhm.
and he started looking at these through the lens of products liability, saying, "Hey, these are not third-party speech issues. These are product designs." And so he formed our firm, and I joined in February of 2022. I was a partner at a very sort of prestigious law firm in Seattle, Washington. Corner office, as you would say. So,
Yeah.
and as I mentioned when we got on the call, I have little kids. So when I met Matt and when I saw Social Dilemma and what was happening,
Oh, that's
um,
crazy. Yeah, that was like mind blowing. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was the easiest decision my family and I have ever had to make, even though it was one of the most extreme. Because with small children at home, there was just no question that this was what we were supposed to be doing.
Definitely,
So.
definitely. Well, that's great. I really admire you how you took this decision and you just choose the best also for the world and based on your own experience. So that's quite great. Okay, so we want to know a little bit how you handle all the process that you get from these different situations through the social media. How you receive a case, how you handle it, how is the investigation, how you guys proceed with all these stuff from the.
Sure. So some of that I can provide. I mean, some is sort of internal and I can't, but part of what makes us different from a lot of firms is that this is all we do. So I think when you have a firm, most firms have a wide practice, and this may be an attorney or 5 attorneys. What's very different is it's what we do 24/7. So it makes such a big difference when it comes to that. So our process is, somebody will call our firm. There's a company that answers. They'll do a basic intake. They'll ask questions like, name, address, and they'll ask sort of qualifying questions, right? Questions to make sure that this is a social media related harm. Once the caller qualifies for intake, it then goes to us. And at that point, there's a whole nother set of process, right? There's a questionnaire, there's calls that take place, there's an interview with an attorney, and then we work with that client. We sort of assess what are the claims, what are the harms, and because all we do is social media, we've sued Meta, Snapchat or Snap rather, Google, TikTok, Roblox, Discord. We'll sue essentially if there's a harm being caused and it's brought to our attention and we think that we can bring a complaint and make a difference, we will. In terms of how we visualize, because of course in the United States we have Section 230, which makes it very difficult.
Okay.
And Section 230 says that these platforms aren't responsible for what third parties do. And that's how they've gotten away with this for so long. And really what's different about these cases for us is in the United States is these are not cases about a bad guy on social media, third party speech. These are cases about products that have been knowingly and deliberately designed to
Mhm.
addict children, to connect complete strangers, which in the case of kids will be a child and a predator or a drug dealer.
Yeah.
These
So
products that are just designed in a way that is inherently dangerous to kids, right? So it's not the speech, it's the product itself that's causing
is
the
the
harm.
problem. Yeah, and also because there's a lot of I think that all of them are designed to be like quickly accepting, right? So every time that they show you something, it's like, do you allow social media? And I mean, if you as a growing up, sometimes you don't read and you don't. realize how important is to read and accept what they show us. Well, a kid, of course, neither too.
Yes. Imagine the other thing I was talking about earlier with someone is, I think what makes these products so dangerous is that the product that is being sold to adults often is very different than what kids are getting. And I think most people in the world don't yet, especially most adults, don't realize or appreciate that.
Mhm.
The example someone gave me today is it's basically they're selling a book with the same cover. And so
Mhm.
everyone thinks it's the same book, but it's not.
That's dangerous.
It's it's not, it's dangerous, and it's dangerous because parents are like, "Oh, I have a Facebook and I have a Snapchat, and they're fine. I
Yeah.
don't have predators sending me, explicit photos. I don't have" what they don't realize is because of how the algorithms are programmed for engagement over safety, the product that our children are using, more often than not, is very different
Yes,
than what the parents are
course,
using.
definitely, definitely. Well, we are talking about the two, right? So, as you say, there's a lot of parents who also use this kind of social media as a tool or also as a business tool or to
Yes.
communicate with friends. I mean, they have different use because of the person who is using this tool. So, the next question is based on if we're talking about that social media, it's a tool and the users are the one who interact between them. How it will be the tool, the guilty of these kind of situations if it is only a tool. See, so
Right.
because I think that they also talk about. I mean, this is only a tool. You use it in your own benefit. But how if that is the speech, how the tool is the guilty of this bad situation?
Right. So cars are only tools, right? So vehicles, cars, we use those, but we don't let kids drive them until they're 16,
Oh, that's a good argument.
right? So there's any number of products that we have out there. I mean, cigarettes are products, and you can't buy those in the States till you're 18. There are any number of products out there. It's a so what you're describing with the tool, it's a risk benefit test, a utility, risk utility. So as a society, we look at, for example, our cell phone. Cell phones are really important, right? It's created a society where if I fall and break a leg, I can call for help. I have a cell phone, right? I can do things that are really important that have a lot of benefit to society. And it's not super dangerous by itself, the cell phone, right? But then you look at something like social media, and let's say we do the same analysis.
Mhm.
Snapchat, for example. We say, okay, well, Snapchat enables kids to or people to communicate with each other. I mean, we can already communicate by phone, so it's not giving us any additional utility.
Mhm.
But then we look at a product that's built into Snapchat, like disappearing messages. Now, they're not just disappearing as between users, but the way Snapchat operates, or Snap rather, is they delete the data on the back end, right? So if it was just disappearing as between you and me, we might say, okay, that's kind of fun,
Mhm.
and spontaneous, but yeah, but Snap is actually deleting the data on the back end. So now what's happened is a lot of drug dealers, when they're selling counterfeit pills that are laced with fentanyl, which is a big issue we're having, is an epidemic of fentanyl poisoning deaths. Dealers, when they've got pills that contain fentanyl, but they look like Percocet, they often go to Snapchat to sell them, right? And they don't typically, and I've spoken with numerous individuals, they may sell weed on Instagram or fentanyl as fentanyl on Instagram, right? They may sell things on Instagram that are not high consequence, but if they're going to sell kids counterfeit pills that could kill them, you do that on Snapchat because Snapchat deletes that evidence, right? So what's the public utility of deleting data on the back end, right? And there is none. There is none because in our society, and again, under US laws, privacy is something that we safeguard through locked doors, through legal process, right? So if I want your bank records, I can't just walk into the bank and say, hey, I want Laura's bank records. I have to actually come in with the police and a document or a court order that says I get them. So by deleting the data, there is no public utility,
Mhm.
right? It's not really about privacy. It's about destroying data. And the harm it's causing is it's created a place where drug dealers feel they can go and sell dangerous drugs to children without consequence. And so that's the you know, the utility, the risk utility test. And so when you're talking about tools, it's, I would say to people, find any tool out there and let's talk about
Mhm.
the risk utility. How does it help us and how is it dangerous? Another example I'll use really quick is, you know, with cell phones, we have those and they have a lot of utility. But imagine a scenario where when you give your kid a cell phone, the way it works is instead of the cell phones that we know now, the cell phone company is going to send your child's city and state, photograph, personal information to every person within a 40-mile radius, right? They're going to allow, if you're on Snapchat, they're going to allow those people to track your children through a Snap Map feature. Those are the types of dangerous, and they're going to delete all of those texts. So if you check your kid's phone, you
Mhm.
can't find those texts. Now, those are the kinds of really dangerous features that social media bake into their products that serve no utility to society. They're dangerous. We
Okay.
don't need them.
Okay.
That's how you address. And the last point I'd make is anytime we talk about things like products and tools, I mean, you mentioned businesses. If I'm using Instagram for my business to advertise my business, if I'm using TikTok to
Mhm.
advertise my business, I don't care if you check my ID, right? Like confirm that I'm an
Exactly.
adult. You can confirm I'm a registered business if you want, right? There are pieces there where as a business, businesses register all the time and nobody says, well, what about my privacy? I can't believe I have to get a business license, right? But you don't do the same thing for a business account. Those aren't the accounts that are causing harm to kids.
Of
Those
course.
aren't the users that are causing harms to kids. It's not the mechanisms that are causing harm to kids.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting, and it's a lot of information to process, you know?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It
Okay.
is a lot.
It's
Yeah.
really interesting, and you say that we don't need social media. I think that that's a really hard statement in the social media world where we are involved right now, even if we don't want to. So I have a question. Well, it's if you want, you can split the question, the answer in two. But the first question is, do you use social media? And if you use it, or how can we avoid the use? How can we I don't know, like erase the social media from the growing of our kids? I mean, I am a mom now.
We can't erase it.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
so
you
possible.
can't.
Sometimes you say like, okay, I don't want that my kid use any kind of social media. Even I don't even know if I want that he watch any TV. But how can I analyze him from all these things, what are happening around, you know? So what are your advices and how
Yeah. So first I would say it will be much easier for you to stop your children from watching TV than it will accessing social media. I spoke with a mom this morning whose son is gone. He's dead. And she never got him I said, when did you, you know, with every client, when did you get the first she never got him a cell phone, right? So this was a child at age 12 has access to social media through school devices and then will find old phones that friends no longer need, and he's able to take those old phones and he's a smart kid. Most kids these days are when it comes to tech. He can go in, he can customize it, he can put a pin code in, he's got Wi-Fi access. Parents cannot protect their children if their children are bound and determined to get on social media. And these companies know it and they're banking on it, right? I mean, they have a virtually unlimited audience when it comes to children, and parents cannot stop them. It is unlike any industry we've ever seen. Historically, there are checks and balances, there are regulations, there are barriers to children, like you have to be able to buy a product and you can't afford it as a 12-year-old. Parents don't have any of those markers for safety. Now, I don't know that we can make social media disappear. I don't know that we look, I have a Facebook.
Mhm.
I have a Facebook, and there are many people in my life from college, from law school, from my childhood. There are many people that I am able to keep in touch with because of social media that I otherwise would not. Now, do I need those connections? No. Is it nice to see the children of people I went to college with grow up? Yes, it is. That is one way that these products function, right? And so what at SMVLC, Social Media Victims Law Center, what we're trying to do and what many firms in the space now are trying to do is to force these companies to make their products safer. And there are many ways they can do that. And you know, you talk about having a child, imagine in 5 years, or 10 years, or however many years before your kid gets exposed to this, the product that is being distributed by these companies is one that balances consumer safety with utility, with, you know, all the bells and whistles that people like, but you're actually, because of Section 230 and other laws throughout the world, unlike every other industry, these companies didn't make their products safe. And they'll tell you we have ethics committees and safety groups, but their own internal records will show you what's really happened, right? Which is that these companies believed, these leaders believed they were untouchable. And that because their products were on the internet and because any harms they believed arising from somehow involved communications with third parties, they were off the hook. When in fact they know there's a lot of ways they can make their product safer. Let's start with, you know, age and identity verification. Or if you don't want to verify everyone's age and identity, you can work in the reverse and say, okay, here's my safe product that's available to everyone. Here is the product with no safety measures. In order for you to access this product, you have to prove you're 18 or over, or you have parental consent, right? Like flip it. So it's something to say, like, you cannot use this dangerous, inherently dangerous product unless you're an adult. Now, there's other pieces here, like even once our kids are signed up, there's all sorts of ways these companies know that they're actually kids. You know, including algorithms they use, et cetera. They could actually enforce, and they could take, you know, they could make sure they have parental consent. In Snapchat's case, they could stop deleting data so that when law enforcement needs evidence because something has gone terribly wrong, the data exists. They could stop targeting children or everyone with harmful algorithms, right? It's programming. It's down to the speed of the program. And I'll give you one example, a story that I had heard, which was that within Facebook at one point, they talked about putting a feature on the product so that when you wake up in the morning, it says, what time do you want to go to sleep? And if you say 10 p.m., then at 9 p.m., all they have to do is turn down the speed of the algorithm to make the product less addictive. And so what happens if you turn down the speed at 9 p.m., you no longer get stuck in that, like 3 hours later, I'm still on it. It's not going to obviously work for everyone, but a significant number of people that now want to go to bed at 10 will turn it off, just like they turn off video games, just like they turn off television.
Of course, that's a great
and the decision is no, right? Because you make less money. That's literally a safety feature that these companies could implement, which is simply, hey, tell us what time you want to go to sleep. We'll make our product a little less addictive an hour before bedtime. There are user recommendation algorithms that Meta's own documents have shown contribute to adult minor grooming on the platform. So the harm that's happening to kids, many times, according to Meta's documents, it's a factor in roughly 70% historically, or it was. Those user recommendation algorithms are affirmatively connecting predators to children, drug dealers to children. It's doing it because it's using all these data points to figure out how do we increase engagement. Well, if I'm a 45-year-old man who likes young girls, then to increase my engagement, you need to connect me to more young girls.
Okay, wow, that's very
right. And when you program for engagement over safety, the machines don't know.
no,
right? It's the humans. The machines can't say, oh, wait a sec, that's not a good thing. I should not be recommending a 10-year-old girl to a 45-year-old man that she doesn't know. But that's what the products do. And I've seen it. I've met with young girls. I've met with parents. I've seen what's in their accounts. I've seen men say, oh, I found you because of the Facebook recommendation or the Instagram suggestion, and then exploit these children.
Wow.
So you change that product. You change what data points it uses to make these connections.
Okay, well, definitely. So, well, just say that we're talking about children, right? But we want to know. I think that most of the social media, they get some. They I mean they hurt most of it to teenagers or to young children, or when this happens, you only accept cases about children or about teenagers or any kind of people, or
It's
can get your services?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what I will say is, look, these products can be harmful to people of all ages. And there are 40-year-olds that feel like they can't stop using it. The issue there is that, so from SMVLC's perspective, we have a cutoff, and I don't know the exact age, but I can tell you it's tied to the issue of vulnerability. So biologically, medically, your frontal lobe continues developing until you're about 25 years old.
Okay.
And so, right. So that's the vulnerability. So it's there with children, it's there with teenagers, and it's there with many young adults.
Yeah.
So from a legal perspective, we only represent children, I would say up to, and I don't know the exact age, but it's the young adult age. So maybe 20, 22.
Okay.
Um, yeah. And it has to do with the fact that they're more vulnerable based on the development of the frontal lobe.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes even if you're 25, I mean, you can be
Yep.
new in all of this stuff too.
Yep.
So it can be very bad too. Well, so
And statistically, I will tell you, these companies, their own documents will show you statistically, if you're looking at the percentage of populations harmed, children and teens are exponentially more at risk. So even in their own documents, in Meta's case, they'll talk about how you have higher rates of problematic use, so dependency or addiction, however you want to phrase it, you'll see higher rates of that among teens and children. You see higher incidences. I mean, if we're talking about exploitation of children, that only happens to minors, right? As an adult, we see that as consensual when two adults are engaged in that. But when it comes to, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, part of the issue is that these algorithms are being programmed in a way such that adults are not being subjected to these types of harm. So I've talked to hundreds of families, children, and every young woman I've spoken to will tell you the same story of, I opened a Snapchat account, I opened an Instagram account, and immediately I start getting messages from complete strangers and inappropriate photos and solicitation. I've also spoken to adults who opened Instagram and Snapchat accounts, and I have yet to meet one adult female who had the same experience. I'll say on Snapchat, did you ever get explicit photos? I won't say the word since we're being recorded, but explicit photos. And I have yet to meet an adult female who said yes, but every young woman says yes. That's because of it's the product, it's the design, it's the programming, it's the
yeah.
operation. So those harms are only happening to children, and legally when you're talking about an adult who is sexually abusing a child, that's a category of harms that is only happening to children, just by definition.
Well, in talking about the age, at what age do you think that it's correct or it is good to have a social media?
I'll use the word safe, right? At what age is it safe? Look, with the current decisions these companies are making, there's an argument to say that it's not safe. And you hear all the time about people being, there's sextortion and people's photos being taken and people's identity being taken. So because of how they operate them now, there's an argument to say it's never safe. If you're saying, like, if the question is, if it was my kids, when would I be okay with them using social media? The answer is, in their current form, the way they're currently designed, programmed, and operated, not under my roof, not while they're a child. I think if I were to say, what's the ideal age? If you're going to, probably 25, when your brain is fully formed. Now, legally, can I stop them from distributing to my kids until they're 25? No. I certainly can stop them until my children are 18 and move, I would not, knowing what I know now, and even down to before I started this job, I allowed my small children to watch YouTube Kids. And then I learned about YouTube Kids. I learned about how these products work, how they work on a child's mind. I watched my own children when they were engaging with these products. And it took me a few months to wean my own small children off of YouTube Kids when I realized how harmful it was. I do not allow YouTube Kids in my own home. And that's one that many parents think, and they're told, it's called YouTube Kids. They're told this is safe. It's not safe for many reasons. It's not safe. It's not safe in its design because it's addictive, because of what it does to children's brains, the constant stimulation, the dopamine hits, the reward systems. But it's also not safe on the back end when you're talking about the videos that get through to kids, and they will slip them in. You can think your kid's watching Peppa the Pig, all day long, and then you walk in and you've got a kid doing some kind of really dangerous, inappropriate prank, or they're just not safe. And they're not safe for 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 18-year-olds. They're not really safe for 23-year-olds. We just can't stop them.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Well, whew, that's, as I told you, that's a lot of information, but
A
um,
lot, a
now,
lot.
I am really curious about all these kind of regulations or the work that you're doing maybe around the world. Do you know from some other people or some other law centers who are working with this kind of, of situations? For example, here in Colombia, we can hear a lot of cases of the teenagers. I mean, I don't know if it's the same in the States, but here in Colombia, I feel that the generation of our parents, they don't really know how to, I mean, they don't even know how to pronunciate Facebook, you know? Sometimes it's really new, and even I can see that even the older people, they also know and discover this tool, and I can talk with my friend. I mean, they feel even comfortable with this, so that's when we have the problem that when, I mean, if I can do it, my kids too, and that's okay. But I can say when they are facing this kind of situations like sorry, I forgot how
Suicide, suicide.
to
Yeah.
and also when they have these anxiety or depression problems with their kids, they don't know how to handle it, and they don't know what to do, and they don't know where to go or who talk to. So I don't know if you know if there's some other centers or other people who is working on this.
I don't know, and part of the difficulty, it's so SMVLC is very unique in its genesis.
Mhm.
We have a very well-respected, talented, experienced attorney who saw an issue and he had a very successful career, and he was able to fund us out of his savings account.
Wow. Hmm.
And what I would say to anyone that is watching or anyone you talk to is, every country, every state, every county, you need somebody to really help people with these issues. It would be amazing if people around the world who had resources, business. I mean, I don't know how it works in other countries with businessmen. You can't fund a law firm, right? But people could start nonprofit law firms. People could, attorneys who were very successful and wealthy could start firms like this to hold these companies accountable. The problem is it's a risk, right? So even with our founder, we don't know where this litigation is going. He is fully prepared to lose every penny he invested if it means making the world a better place.
Wow.
And that is what we need. We need that in every country. We need somebody to step up and say enough, because these suicides, these kids that you're talking about, it's the same problem here in the States. And the really horrific answer right now for parents is there's nothing parents can do. I mean, doctors don't even know, these companies don't share their data. So you have doctors misdiagnosing, you have doctors giving bad advice, telling parents, take the phone away from your kid, when there are other doctors that will tell you that can be a loss trigger that itself causes suicide because these kids are so addicted. We have cases where children kill themselves because social media is taken from them. We have cases where children are being exposed to horrific content on TikTok for 2 weeks, unbeknownst to anyone, and then they kill themselves. Right now, people have got to start stepping up and taking action because this is killing kids.
Exactly. And so, based on this information, I want to know if you guys have the chance to maybe take cases from out of the US.
Possibly. I know we have some clients in Canada. Let me check with the team and I will write
That would
back
be
tomorrow.
great.
These companies are located in the US. So if there's any other country that we could do it, it would be here. We have jurisdiction over them here. I know we have some Canadian clients. Let me see, because it is very possible that we could. If
Yeah. And
you
also, it will be a great tool for people
Yep.
that maybe they don't know, or if we have the chance to maybe make them know that you guys
Yeah.
are a great law center, and that can also help the people who is not immediately there. So that will
Yep.
be great. So yeah,
I'm gonna see and get back to you guys. It's tricky, but there's gotta be a way for people to hold these companies accountable. Even if we do it and a court throws us out, it says something, right? It says like these families want to fight back.
That's great. Thank you very much. So, well, I have two last questions, like in order
Yeah,
to give a closer to this
yeah.
amazing interview. So, I want to know if you guys are a private institution or you have the support of the government.
We're private. We're a for-profit company, and we are private. That said, and again, it's what makes us different from I think most for-profit law
Yeah.
firms is how we came into
Mhm.
being. Because we do this 24/7, we often work closely with a number of nonprofits, government officials that have questions. So we are working in every sector. We're not a traditional law firm. We're not set up that way. I don't have to account for every minute. We even will meet with like school boards and parents and teachers, and we're able to do anything and everything that is aimed at helping give people knowledge, safety, making change. So
Okay, Laura, thank you. And the last one, which advices related to the use of social media, taking care also of the mental health that is also quite affected because the use of the social media. Which advices would you give us to the parents, to the young people, based or related to the use of social media? I will say that you will say like, don't have it, don't use it. Okay.
you can't, it won't work. It won't work. So to the parents, I would say, look, keep an open dialogue with your children. If you can prevent them from using it, great. If you can caution them, if you can research it and tell them how it's dangerous, if you can develop a relationship where you're able to see what they're doing or check with them. I tell parents all the time, like with TikTok, if your kid has a TikTok and you're allowed to access it, check it every couple days. When that algorithm is not harmful, I'm sure it's a very fun product. When it turns, it can turn fast. So check in.
Okay.
That's all parents can really do. For kids, look, I mean, kids are the ones that are going to make the difference ultimately here. This is about their health and their well-being. These companies are exploiting them and they're
Sure.
controlling them, and nobody wants to be controlled. I would just say to kids, like, it's really look at what this product is doing and really think about it. And it makes the most dangerous things in the world seem like games. And you feel like you're
Mhm.
safe behind the phone, but you're not. You're not safe because predators can find your address, they can find your location, they can find out who you are. And once you're addicted, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I don't really know, I guess, what to say to kids because as a kid, you're going to do what you're going to do. But the other thing I would say, like with Snapchat, and right now, a lot of children are dying of fentanyl poisoning. And these are kids that think they're buying marijuana or Percocet or Oxys or Xanax or some drug that we are told is safe and it's okay to take. And they look like those drugs and they're not. They're laced with fentanyl and children are dying. The thing about childhood is kids make a lot of mistakes. You're not supposed to die for them. I think kids need to know that in this world of social media, if you make a mistake, you may not get a second chance. This isn't like 20 years ago. You may not have the chance to learn from your mistakes because these companies are not giving you that chance.
Exactly. Well, Laura, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the